It's another day, and we are grateful that you've made time to join us for yet another edition of 21 Minutes with KKB. My name is Kwabna Chenchehini Boatin. Today, I'm very privileged to be speaking to a gentleman well, he's a gentleman of many things. He's an economist, he's an educationist, he's an entrepreneur, he's a business owner, he's a lot of things.
Which business?
But do hold on. I'll take this break. When I come back, I'll introduce my next guest on 21 Minutes with KKB. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us here on 21 Minutes with KKB. Professor Stephen Adei is an educationist, like I mentioned earlier. He's also an economist. He owns one of the best senior high schools in Ghana currently. And now he's also holding a very sensitive position in one of the leading universities in the country. That's the Ashesi University. Today, he happens to be our guest on 21 Minutes with KKB. Prof, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Thank you.
Now you're at Ashesi University?
Yes.
As Dean of Sciences and
Arts and
Arts and Sciences. Oh,
yeah.
You seem to have a lot on your plate. Is it
I love teaching, so therefore, for me, teaching is a hobby.
Okay. So you don't even see it as a profession or anything?
No.
I suppose that's what excites you the most then?
Yes.
In life, teaching?
Always dealing with young people is my excitement. By the way, I don't own Ghana Christian International High School.
Okay.
My wife and I founded it.
It's one of the, well, I'm told it's one of the best schools, senior high schools in the country currently. How different is your module from the normal module we see in, say, Achimota School or Presbyterian Boys Secondary School or any other school?
Well, by the way, we won a national award for the best science and mathematics education. We beat Presec in the finals last year. Okay. I hope they will prepare and we'll beat them again. But again, also, we have a branch in my village, and my village they just have their first graduates, they got 100%. So if one person fails in Wegehe, we will be the top in Ghana for this year. But on a more serious note, I think that in terms of quality education, academic, we are in the league of the Wegehe, Presec, SOS. But our concern is the moral education, is the Christian, ethical, and bringing the other side. So that is what makes Ghana Christian the preferred school for many people, and now we have a challenge of how to accommodate those who want to come there, because we don't want to have a double stream.
Interesting. This double track system, you don't want any such thing in your school?
No, I think that we can deal with a certain number of people, our facilities, but I think that the double track is the best solution for the public schools, given the numbers. But there's no reason why we should become a double track, because we have a limited space of 750. We think that's a number we can handle, and we are going to keep to that.
Why a double track system? Is that the best possible way out of this challenge we face in the implementation of the free SHS policy?
Yes. I say yes because, first of all, there's no going back on free HSS. If anybody wants to delay it, I always say that let your children stay at home and let the villagers also have opportunity. And then after 5 years, your children can come. So I think it's a good policy, but it has a fallout, is the fact that it has been so successful that this year they are going to have almost 500,000 students wanting to go to secondary school.
Could it also be as a result of lack of planning? We didn't envisage
There's
this.
no way the current government could have planned for it. But governments over the years, yes. If you had, I always say that since the Fourth Republic, if you had built 10 secondary schools, not the gargantuan ones they have put in the villages, which are going to rust because you can't put 1,500 school in a village. And
yeah, speaking of the schools built by former President Mahama.
Yeah, they are only useful for urban areas. All that they have put in the villages are going to be useless.
So they are useless?
They are useless. You cannot, because to transport 1,500 people within, you have to go about 30-kilometer radius in order to fill them, without any boarding, without any teachers' bungalows, nothing. How can you do so? But if you go to Kwabenya, the one, you know, there's a large communities can have days, secondary school, big ones. The villages need smaller boarding or even day, serving about only 10 junior high schools. So it was a model gone wrong. But I support the idea of having community schools, but not the one. The only people who profited from it are the contractors, not Ghana's education. But let us go to, I think that the past must be, let's go forward. Mm-hmm. And the fact is that the numbers are such that this year, if they had gotten them on the same single track, our children in the dormitories will be like sardines, in the classroom like tinapa and the rest. So this double track allows you to split them into two. So Achimota becomes actually two secondary schools, with each with a set of teachers. One goes in the morning, not the morning, that's a shift system. One goes for a semester, go on holiday. The other comes with their teacher for a semester. And it's been arranged that the contact hours will be 10% more. There will be 162 days instead of the normal 180 days they go to school. But then instead of starting at 8, they start at 7:30. Instead of closing at 2, they close at 3:30. So on the whole, you are going to have smaller classes, contact hours will be higher, and everything. I think that those who brought it were very ingenious. Actually, I found out that it wasn't the first to discover. Other countries had the same problem and they have used it successfully. So I think it's the best that we can. Parents will have to deal with their children coming home for long vacation, about 3 months. But don't mind the NAGRAD people. They are going to be happy. They are going to be having extra classes in holidays and chop.
So you don't think the issues NAGRAD, for instance, is raising are legitimate enough? Of course, they've a number of things that come up. One has to do with the stress on the facilities themselves. It doesn't even, you don't give room for development, infrastructure development.
Listen, only in Ghana that we stop cars at 8 a.m. when people are rushing to work to fix it, which is almost like madness. Where were they in the night when everybody was sleeping? In the same way, the maintenance, should have a maintenance culture with a crew maintaining. But we are talking about is the lesser of two evils. This is what I see. And I don't think that any of them has gotten any better option. It's the lesser of two evils in the sense that having 180 people in a class, children sleeping like sardines and other things. No, this is the better option. And so far, nobody, and I was not part of the design, so the nobody includes me, has been able to come up with any better alternative. It has to be treated. There must be a way of having about 2 weeks or 1 week in between semesters so that things can be arranged. When teachers, when they come, how do they share facilities of the offices? Two people actually will be using one office because one comes and one goes, and a few other things must be treated. But let me tell you, if you're a change manager, you have a problem, you solve it. I don't think that they envisage this big influx. And I think that they have come up with the best solution. Ours should be, how do you make it better?
Some of the private school owners, senior high school owners are saying that there's available room in our schools. Use them. Just give us something for that.
I think that last year, issue of political exuberance, they said no private school. This year, they have asked every child to choose one private school and one day school. Yeah. So, which means that, but then some of the private schools are also in shambles, so you cannot say that the government should send students there. But I agree that those in better shape and need the students, they can be of help, and it will cost the government the same per unit cost. So I don't see why the private schools, rather than Ghana Christian.
They are saying the government is not engaging them on that. They've sent such a proposal to government, but government doesn't seem keen on going toward that very direction.
I'm not inside, but I understand that some private schools have been looked at and they are going to have students. But not every school doesn't meet minimum standards, it's going to be. But I think that the private schools must be used. I agree with that as a principle, but not every school.
But you don't want your school to be used?
No. The question is that it's full.
Okay. so they can also go on break for about 3 months or 2 months, and then some others can also, make use of the very, very, very good facilities there and the like.
No, that's what makes it private.
But you do not want people to come use your facilities.
No. Because at this moment we have our 3-term we hadn't planned for, and we are opening school in 3 weeks. So, along the way we may see what we can do, but I cannot disturb the system. Actually, the teachers will not allow me to. But the other private schools which are begging for students, so let us use them, not the ones which are already full.
Interesting. Anyway, so I do understand from what you say now that free SHS is the way to go.
Oh, yes. Yes. I didn't go to secondary school because there was no free SHS. And I don't want any other Ghanaian child for somebody to say, I'm preparing for 5 years or I'm preparing for 10 years.
For a progressively free senior high school.
Meanwhile, what happens to the child who doesn't have opportunity? So it's a question we are all going. Now it's up to us taxpayers to find the money and other things, and not to say that some should be denied. And talk about experimentation. We have had free secondary school in the 3 northern regions for 61 years. Therefore, we know what it is. It helps children. People in the northern region who gets admission to secondary school, only about less than 15% don't actually go. In the southern Ghana, up to 25 to 35% who get admission don't go. It's all cashment, as my younger brother Otienje would say, cashmenta. So it is something which is good, but it's not without challenges. And the government must listen to comments, whether it's from opposition or NAGRAT, and those that must be taken on board. But for me, the die is cast. And they say that they will have it only for 5 years. Yes, please, you politicians, you lack math. Are you going to be able to build sufficient double secondary schools within 5 years? But at least for whatever time it takes, that is the best option we have now.
So it shouldn't be a short-term measure. You think we should go the full haul?
I think that some of the schools will have it for a long time. Why? Because it depends upon our ability to build sufficient independent schools to accommodate them all. And if they have the money and they do it today, hey, I like the single system if we can afford it. But I have my suspicion whether
it doesn't look likely
that it can be done in a short term.
As in 5 years, as the government is suggesting.
Yeah. But in French, you say on verra. We shall see.
No, but realistically, let's say it will take what, about 20 years?
I don't want to put a number on it, but it depends upon how the economy performs. Because it's all a matter of, if you have the money, building schools, it's not a difficult one.
That's true.
And I can't predict how much money we are going to have. So those areas, I don't speculate.
We'll be talking about the economy and the like very shortly, but still on education. You have made suggestions, so you proposed that there's no point in even having students study so many subjects to go write exams.
Oh, yeah.
9 subjects, no, too much. You are proposing what, 4?
Yes, I proposed 4, and what I hear, the Minister of Education is picking it up. They are saying that basic education, the BEC, will be only 4 subjects, the examination. But they will, children should be able to enjoy studies. If children spend all their time preparing for exams, it's not good for them. When we were in school, I didn't go to secondary school, I did SAR 7. There were only 4 subjects: English, arithmetic, geography, and history. But we did gardening, we did PE, we did all other things. And so at that basic level, let children study to enjoy. So we are not saying that the other things, they should do art. Because if you deny a child drawing, painting, you are shortchanging them. but test them on the core things they need in order to do everything else. They need quantitative reasoning. They need language skills. These days they will need computer, and they must have some broad social scientific inquiry spirit. If they have this at the basic level and they are very competent at it, they will be able to do all the other things.
So subjects such as, say, religious and moral education or French, for
instance. It should be there. Language should be there.
They shouldn't be tested on them?
No, not, what's your mother tongue?
I'm Akan.
Akan. Yes. Do you speak it?
Yes, I do.
Have you been tested on it?
No.
No. You see, what we talk about education for younger people, we are not, in fact, they have such a capacity. If you teach a child 3 languages, they will learn 3 languages, especially the younger they are. Mm-hmm. So we should expose them, but they should enjoy it. In fact, they study better. These are not, you are going to do 12 papers, 9 papers. I mean, this is crazy. Give them what they will need to do all the other things, and that is language, quantitative, ICT, scientific inquiry. In other words, the ability to be inquisitive, to look at things and ask, and those things. And then, of course, I would like them to have a social study that allows them to learn culture, our traditions, our history, and other things. But that is enough for the basic education. And when you go to the secondary school, I did O-level, but those who went to secondary school, you were required only 5 subjects. English, maths, and 3 more, and you go to university. And in fact, up to now in Britain, when you have 5 O-levels, you require only 2 A-levels to go to university. And if you have 4 O-levels, you require 3 A-levels. Okay. And I managed to scrape through with a also guy. I managed to get 5 O-levels, very passed, and then got 2 A-levels, geography and economics, and Baka. I was in the University of Ghana. And now you say, if you don't pass 8, I mean, come on. We are, but there are certain core subjects today that is needed. Language, ICT, and quantitative. Those ones must be the basic. And apart from that, let people just flower. And they flower so well.
Interesting. Okay, so maybe let's put a hold on education for now, and then shift our focus to maybe mainline politics. You're an academic, but you seem to comment on a lot of controversial political issues in the country.
Like what? I never get myself involved in controversy. Corruption is not controversial. Oh, okay. It is destroying Ghana. No, but let me tell you that. Every now and then they put me in a certain pigeonhole. I remember when I supported the 3-year education senior secondary school of NDC, then some MPP, so is Professor Adei also with them? I says, no.
Oh, but they thought you were one of them?
Yes, so that means that I am with
NDC now, as in you defected. But
the reason is this. The problem with the 3-year is enough if we fix the problem at the basic level. So you don't, instead of fixing poor basic education, you want to put it here. So to me, that was it. And at this moment, I support the double track because it's the better option given the situation. But so I don't think that there's any intelligent person who is apolitical. I mean, politics is about the economy, the budget. When they increase your fuel, do you laugh? So, but that should be distinguished from partisan politics. In the sense that, for example, when last week I mentioned that their married deed is bad, it is not anti-MPP. It's bad for Ghana. If my party is Ghana first. And I believe that at my age, I will be 70 at the end of this year. Okay. I've finished my career. I don't eat from Mahama or Kufuor's plate. If I cannot represent my people in terms of thought and be able to speak what I believe in, then God help Ghana. So that is my position. Let me tell you, I have certain interests, and it's not I love my Lord Jesus Christ, and I would die for him for saving me. I love my wife and family. I love Ghana, and in that, its leadership is a challenge which we must continue to work at it. Yeah. We must work at corruption because it is a killer. It's worse than cancer. The number of people when they are stealing money for schools, for hospital, for almost everything, you cannot sit down and say that, you are comfortable by God's grace, you are okay. No, I am a villager. I go to my village. I've raised over 1 million to build a secondary school in my village. And you think that is the responsibility if the monies have not been stolen. That should be everywhere. And so I am very passionate about education, pre-university education in particular, because why are you talking to me? Do you know my village? Shiramwasi, have you been there? Do you know where it is on the map? It's because of, by God's grace, the education. And I believe that every child must have an opportunity to be educated to a certain level whereby the rest is on him. I don't believe personally that the government, apart from certain areas, should give a wholesale university education. Rather, make sure that everybody gets basic education to secondary level. And at the university, only support certain areas in line with national manpower development and let the rest take care of themselves. Those who go to the private school, they pay for themselves. Mm-hmm. But before university, I think every child should have that capacity to live in the 21st century. And after that, I wish that at least 60% will be directed to technical education, vocational, and other things. Because if you put them all to university, what are you going to have? If you have 60 historians, 70 philosophers, political scientists hanging around, which politics are they going to do?
Interesting. But you make a very solid point on corruption, and also I think one of the things you just mentioned was the married deal. But this is a deal that was given the consent. The president gave his consent to it.
If you are a leader, you are in trouble because you have to depend upon your aides. And sometimes you can be misled. Me, I don't know who presented it and whatever it is, but it was my son-in-law in Dubai who sent a copy of the details to me by WhatsApp and asking me to comment. And I said, son, this is a bad deal. And I told him that last week I was going to give a speech to the internal auditors and I'm going to put it in that this is a bad deal and whoever is responsible for. So, by the way, do you think that NDC has a monopoly of corruption? No.
So there are corrupt elements in the NPP?
Every side, except there is relativity, and therefore it is the fear of their being caught and punished and disciplined that will keep them in check. So I think that I hear in the news that the president is being withdrawn as but I think that is a bad deal.
They're saying that, okay, that very contracts. The president is saying he was misled, so as a matter of, because of that,
but I'm glad that
deal is being...
I'm glad that we have a president who said that I have been ill-advised and I'm wrong, because I think that it was a bad deal. First of all, NDC people chop too much. They could, according to Imani, the thing could have been bought for 50% in the open market. In other words, if you went to Makola, of course, that's a special market, you buy it for half of it. And then you get somebody to advise you for 150 million to buy it for about 350 million. Only Ghana. Now, we have paid half. We have half left. And you say you are really negotiating it for, 10 to 15 years so that you pay the other half over a longer period. And this is, I couldn't understand it. Honestly, that it was true, I thought that it was not true. So I was just making a statement that if it is true, it's a bad deal for Ghana. It happens to be
true.
It happens to be true. But I mean, you don't need economics. So if you show it to any primary school, and they might have presented it in such a way that it looks right. And I think that those.
But it went to Parliament.
No, Parliament did it. It was going to Parliament.
Okay.
In other words, she was okay to go to Parliament.
Yes.
Of course, that would have given the opportunity to for debate. But it shouldn't have gone to Parliament at all. It's too bad to even to be forwarded to Parliament.
Should the energy minister be sacked?
If I don't know whether he was the one who would send it or not.
Perhaps he was also misled.
I'm not going to make a political statement. I'll leave it to rather well.
But it's because one of the things I hear a lot of people say is that, I mean, the MPP really capitalized on this very issue, this Ameri deal, and said a lot, hey, it's a bad deal. We will work
and that
on
is
it,
why I can see how the president can be misled. So he said it has to be renegotiated.
But you just mentioned that when you saw it, it was very obvious that, no, this is a bad deal. Yes. Is it that the president didn't read it?
But the question is that whether that was what they sent to him. No, what I'm saying is that don't let us go into where I and you don't have all the facts. So I think that, I say what my son-in-law sent to me was bad enough for me to say that should anybody consider the same way I told my good friend, I like him, but that means the vice president. I think he's a smart guy. I say that, yes, if the next time I see him with 2 trucks of
the
convoy, I'll go on one man a looter. It has nothing to do with, I mean, yes, because I'm prepared to stand to go by the roadside for a minister. Hopefully she's going to do a ministerial work, not for other reasons, or a vice president, and especially the president, to pass, but to commandeer 2 lanes
so that 10 cars in there,
and everybody coming from the other one we will not allow. So it was just a matter of, and this was to me another one which will not be allowed. And people can make capital out of it. For me, it's only one thing I wanted. Ghana cannot be shortchanged a second time. And if we are not being shortchanged a second time, hooray.
Saying misled, does that absorb anybody of any ill?
I say that I won't go there. You journalists, I'm twice older than you.
I understand.
So don't think that you can go around.
No, not at all.
Don't attempt.
Oh no,
I
dare not. I dare not. But I'm looking at this because I'm trying to relate it to, for instance, this issue that has just happened as regards the collapse or merger of certain banks in Ghana. So, for instance, if I'm a CEO of a bank and I say, I was misled, I didn't know all these things were happening in the bank. Should I not be still held accountable or liable?
This is, don't mix oranges and apples. I think that if you're a CEO of a bank, it's not the same as being the head of state with all the departments. Every head of state has a lot more on his plate and has to rely on his ministers and advisors and other things. And occasionally, you may be advised in all good faith. You can take a decision. And if you see you are wrong, you must be humble enough to say that I have made a mistake. I don't know whether he has said I has been misled. It's the papers we are talking about. Yes. And other things. So I think, but if you're a CEO of a corporation, yes, you may be misled, but the scope and other things, you will find it difficult to get away with such an excuse. But even if you're a president, you are culpable. I mean, because you are responsible for your advisors. So we are not getting off the coup, but you cannot bring it down to
that level. Okay, so we'll talk about that But since we are still staying in the realms of politics, politicians, and being misled and the like, I just want a categorical answer from you on this. To whether or not there ought to be sanctions to those who perhaps got the president ill-informed on this very issue.
If they were, and the evidence
because it comes from the energy ministry to the president.
What I'm saying is that at the end of the day, you cannot mislead a president and get away with it. Some head may normally roll.
Wachejaku may likely go.
I don't know who. I said I don't have enough inside information to be able to say who.
But he's the minister. He presented it. He has defended it all along. So it cannot be that he did not know the content of the document.
So if you know the answer, then
some time back you described politicians in Ghana as glorified thieves.
Not every one of them. They're the corrupt ones. Honorable, the dishonorable, honorable.
Yes. That issue almost put you in some sort of trouble with Parliament.
Well, my own MP, Katie Hammond, called me foolish. She was going to invite me to the Privileges Committee.
Privileges Committee of Parliament.
Well, if you were here, I'll ask him whether anybody has a privilege to steal. That's all my answer.
You were just making noise.
Yeah, I mean, well, if they called me, I will share my thoughts. I don't think that what I said, which was unfortunately blown out of proportion also by the media, is that there are certain things that should not characterize our politics, unfortunately. All the revelations and shows that soon after, they themselves, one of them says that they were corrupt about the Muntaka and what is and the vetting of the energy minister.
Yes.
And all those things. You see, Okoto, Efri, Nsio, Makase, Odencham, Ewia, Gidi. Yes, because they themselves came
so if they are saying, if there are allegations of corruption being leveled against each other, and we should take it as fact.
Honestly, they resolved it among themselves that it was a misspeaking. Well, this is hard for many to take it. No, but let us not mince words. Our politics and our public services are ridden with corruption. Let me give you an example. The average MP spends about 500,000 cedis to win the seat. How much they earn for you to spend 500,000?
Between 10,000 and 15,000
whatever it is. So how much will you earn therefore in 4 years? And if they were not otherwise profiting, it will be in economics term irrational.
But they are helping people. They are helping members of their community.
No, say by doing what?
If I'm representing you, I'm helping. If I'm an MP, I of course have the interest of my constituents at heart. And so therefore, perhaps they are driven by that.
No, but the question then is, corruption distorts the national development, and at the end of it, everybody pays the highest price. And therefore, what I'm saying is that corruption in politics and in public services, if you look at the Auditor General's report, it's not a perception. It's a fact. It doesn't mean that every one of them is, but that is and in fact, to such an extent that, and it's becoming a culture, many ordinary Ghanaians expect them to be corrupt because they make demands on them far beyond what one could say they could earn. Mm-hmm. So it's a very serious one that has to be tackled and made sure that we make corruption a very expensive business so that attempting it, you know that there will be consequence.
But here's the case where if you speak about it and you mention names, then you are hauled before a committee. come and explain why he did this? Is it that you think perhaps they are abusing the Privileges Committee?
Well, I think that the Privileges Committee has its role because I believe that when somebody represents people in Parliament, they should be able to speak their mind freely without fear and sanctioning. I think that's what the privilege is all about. But I believe that if an MP or a minister is found to be corrupt, they cannot resort to privilege. In fact, that it has nothing to do with that. Even the president, when they are corrupt, they have only 3 years when they get down not to be prosecuted. So if you are a president and you chop, in 3 years, there's evidence, you go to Nsawam, and it's high time some presidents went to Nsawam. And
as in former presidents of the country, we've had Jerry John Rawlings,
yes.
had
What
John
I'm saying is that
Mahama.
yes. What I'm saying is that if there's evidence, thanks to Vigilante Matiamidu, if he finds something against a president, a retired president, he should just prepare the dossier. In 3 years, when his immunity is, you catch them.
So you think Matiamidu should go after who? Say John Mahama or say
everybody? The special prosecutor is not for me and the common man. It's for everybody,
including the former president,
including the former president after their period of immunity.
Okay.
So
after their period. So
yes, they have about 3 years. I understand constitutionally.
Yes.
So that they would. But say, for example, in 4 years' time, if there were evidence against the first couple, you just catch them and put them in prison before the court, and they are guilty. They go to prison. I don't say that they are. But
of course.
What I'm saying is that the rule of law says nobody is above the law.
Indeed. Okay, let's talk about the banking sector now and how the law appears to have gotten the hold of a few people here and there. And
no, the law hasn't gotten hold.
Not yet, but it's the regulator. Okay, yes. So the Bank of Ghana is cracking the whip, or so it appears, and it seems to be affecting quite a number of local banks. I know that you've been at the forefront of getting a lot of people in tune with this idea of saving and investing with particularly some of these local banks. I know, for instance, for Beige, you're more like an ambassador because I saw you in a few commercials, a few adverts or so.
I am related to the Beige Group, not the Beige Bank. But it's a subsidiary with its own board and that things.
Okay.
No, I think that two things must be separated.
Okay.
I believe that especially young people, one of the ways that your generation will be less corrupt is to save and invest your way to wealth. Because if you are able to, you help more people to create wealth, then the tendency for them to want to steal public funds will be less. And therefore, actually for 15 years, I've served on about 2 mutual funds, M Fund and Balance Fund.
Okay, Data Bank.
Yeah, Data Bank.
Okay.
So I encourage people to save and invest. And that one, I've written about, how many? 4 books, 12 Keys to Financial Success, Christians and Wealth Creation, 101 Ways to Save and Invest, investment opportunities for almost everyone in Ghana. Okay. It is my passion because I tell people, just a young man like you, saving 100 Ghana cedis a month at the rate of 17.5%, in 30 years, you are a millionaire. Cool. If you save 200, you are a multi-millionaire. And I think you look so rich enough to be able to save 300. You see, so it's my passion. My generation didn't save much. And many of them of us are poor, And to me, by the time you are 50, you must be rich enough. You can buy your own car, buy your house, look after your children. Hey, the pressure. And if you are a millionaire, you can go into politics without doing the other things that others do. Are you with me?
Yeah, I get that.
And I thank God that there are few people in politics whom I think that it encourages me because they are there to serve their country. I mean, when I see people like Professor Frimpong Boateng, you know, there, I get excited. I say it's high time that such men who have shown who they are go into politics.
Perhaps you should also join the bandwagon.
I'm getting old, though, but maybe life begins at 70.
Who knows?
But let's come back to, so I think none of what is happening should discourage anybody from systematic savings and investment. Banks may fail, but thank God at least everybody's investment in it has been preserved by the government, because the consequences are grievous if you allow ordinary people to lose their deposits and their investments. But don't stop. Yes, we say in our language, when your child is taken by the river, you don't stop drinking water.
I know Mike Ninakun was your student, right?
No. Actually, I never taught him at all.
Oh, really?
But about 6 years ago, I spoke at a forum of his, and then he came and more or less, I became
his godfather.
A godfather. That's
okay.
I was trying to. So that's, I didn't know him from Adam until then.
Wow.
But that's, I have so many godchildren actually in their hundreds, but I won't tell you who they are.
But so when
now that one is supposed to be in trouble, I don't say that.
I won't ask about the others, but when this thing happened, have you spoken to him since?
Oh yes, I speak to him every day.
Okay. And
look, a father is a father, irrespective of the situation. I think that he tried to build one of the best financial platforms I know of in this country. I think things went wrong, and the regulator, in their own wisdom, think that they wouldn't to stop it. I hope that the platform he has built will not be destroyed, because it's good for Ghana, it's good for the consolidated bank. And this, so yes, but that is the private side. If you are a son, you are a son forever. If you are my son, God forbid, you are even in prison in somewhere, I will be there. Why? Because that is a different, there are different levels. Yeah.
So for instance, does he admit that he probably may have gone over?
I think that family matters are not.
Family
matters are not discussed. You can discuss the
issue.
The issue of the governor's decision and the Minister of Finance and that.
Exactly. So of course, it's still in that same.
But that's not context. The personal ones.
Oh, you know, because in the case of Beige, for instance, the governor was suggesting that some of the practices appeared a bit.
Listen, I'm not in that. I wasn't a director of the bank. I'm not the governor. So what is there is the question is that the regulators and the government has found that they are not sustainable. Whatever cost for that is for the regulators and the authorities, and therefore they have consolidated it. I personally think that they have done something which is good in the sense that they have guaranteed every depositor's money. And I hope that it will not become another government bank, but they will package it and eventually divest it in terms of on the Ghana stock market.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Yes. They're going to.
I think that there were other options, but it is said that always everybody looking on the hindsight is 2020. In other words, you see things. For example, I personally think that the idea of forced capitalization become big was to the disadvantage of the Ghanaian banks who have just started. So, and I think some of them try some creative ways of trying to beat it. Again, one may ask, the 5.6 billion bond, if these 5 banks, if they had helped them with $500 million, which makes it 2.5, could they have survived?
You're told one bank, for instance, is insolvent, owes so much money, I think they'll need about 4 billion or so.
4 billion.
Just one bank. So what happens to the other 4?
Yes, but at this moment, you say that you have absorbed all their in other words, dealing with, I think they were talking about monies which have been transferred, not owing, transferred out of the bank. I think those ones must be brought back. Even by consolidation.
The shareholders need to bring back the money?
It's not the shareholders. The shareholders is the managers. Of course, they may be the same because in some cases they are not the same. So it is those who are responsible for that. They may be either managers, directors, oftentimes. And if they are the same as the shareholders, then you catch them. But you must always distinguish between shareholders and managers and directors, because often they are not the same.
Not the same. Yeah, I see. So for you, you think the Bank of Ghana needs to absorb some blame?
Oh, definitely. There's nobody who can. Whatever happens, at least their supervision was such that they couldn't detect some of these for quite a time. But of course, it depends upon how smart the other people are. Also, they might have been
smarter than them.
Other things. But I believe what I always had some palpitation when the governor every now and then was saying that if you don't meet this one, I'll do this. You don't meet this one, because banking is based also on confidence. Today, if 50% of all those depositors go to Barclays Bank to get their money, Barclays Bank will collapse. Banking is based upon the fact that it's scheduled. Normally, there's a predicted number of. So when there's a run on any bank, whichever bank, it will collapse. So if anything make people lose their confidence, then the bank, that is almost the end of the bank. So this is where we must be very, very careful what we say and do. But for example, if you take, you are a manager and shareholder, you take 1 billion to go and put somewhere else and that things, that I think that I will leave it to the governor, the minister, and OECO. I'm not an expert in criminality.
That's fine. We'll just wrap up on this, but I just want one quick one on this issue of this banking situation we have here. I've heard a lot of people talk about a move by the central bank aimed at amalgamating a lot of these local banks so that we have, instead of having a lot of small banks, we just have some very, very powerful local banks that can deal in a lot of big transactions. You know?
Let me say that I don't share that view as a development economist. Interestingly, the governor the other day told me that he was one of my students at the University of Ghana.
Oh, really?
So I might have done a very good job. But on a more serious note, Dr. Adei may be laughing when he hears this. On a more serious note, I think that if you go to America, there are small banks. There are the Chase Manhattans and the rest. But there are small banks. Tinner Community Bank. It was the capital will be less than $500,000.
Okay.
So I think what the Bank of Ghana should be concerned is they are doing proper banking, how they give their loan risk assessment, you know.
So it's about compliance.
It's compliance and other things. And not the idea of that everybody should be big. No. When you go to the developed countries, there are small banks and there are big banks. And especially when, and I'm not talking about Addison, in the past 4 years or so, they have moved from 25 million capital, go to 40, 60, 120,
now 400.
I mean, come on. You can't do that. You can't do that. And therefore, Barclays, ABSA, or other things can bring money. Those who have operated and have a lot of income surplus, actually, I haven't seen any of the banks bring in additional funds. What they have done is to transfer income surplus into stated capital.
Okay.
And both the income surplus and the stated capital were all capital available for them to use. So in effect, you haven't had a bigger bank. The only difference is that when the money is sitting in income surplus, should they decide, they can share some as dividend. But so far, they haven't shared it. So they were trading with it. So in terms of size, EcoBank, all of them, none of them have become bigger. They are just the same as they were. And therefore, the ones that needed to be helped were the smaller banks, assuming they were doing right, because they are disciplining them for different things and insolvency and liquidity and other things. So that is what the Bank of Ghana is concerned. But asking them to grow big, why would they grow big? If I want to ride my VW, why should I become a four-wheel with pom-pom, which now anybody who has it with the flash in it once a way. I don't think they are ministers. So. All the rich people now, we have to stand by the roadside for them to pass. So this is my concern. Because if you go to a rural bank, 1 million, so long as they are doing what is right, and some of them are making a return of their capital of about 40%, Charlie, let them grow small. Don't rush them, but make sure that they are doing proper banking and they are following the fiduciary responsibilities of a banker. And if they don't, the supervisor must deal with it and catch them on time. So that's all that I would say.
Prof, thank you very much for your time.
It's a pleasure.
Today, and I really enjoyed this conversation. A lot of things to learn, and maybe we'll speak some more about the Godfather, Godson bit, and then we can also talk about, what was the other one? Being misled. We'll talk about it.
I won't talk about either of them. I won't talk about either of them.
But that has been another edition of 21 Minutes with KKB. My name is Kwabna Chenchen. Professor Stephen Adei has been our guest. I'll see you soon, hopefully, with another guest you are expecting.